A few days ago, I noticed a Bloomberg newsletter with a headline that asked, "Why don't political protests hurt the markets?" That inspires the question. India is a democracy that has seen its fair share of protests. What impact do major protests have on GDP growth and stock market sentiment? Hello and welcome back to Business Matters at the Hindu with me, K. Bharat Kumar. The state of California has seen protests in recent days around the US's immigration policy. The US president has sent in the National Guard to quell the protests there. This is the first time this has happened without a governor's request since 1965. And this was followed by Marines coming in to help handle the situation there. The protests have since spread to other cities in the US. The Bloomberg article we referred to earlier says geopolitical events such as the Iran-Israel conflict had some dampening effect on the stock markets in the US, but that local events didn't seem to have significant impact. The article refers to Boston Consulting Group economists as saying that in order to have economic impact, protests must constrain supply, demand, or lending, or change the way the government operates. What indeed affects GDP growth? Economists at the International Monetary Fund have put together an index called the Reported Social Unrest Index based on press coverage. In a 2021 note, the fund said that its economists have found a tight link between unrest and subsequent economic performance. Studies by the fund's economists of 156 unrest events in 72 countries showed that major protests are followed by a 1 percentage point reduction in GDP 6 quarters after the event. Unrest motivated by socio-economic factors is associated with sharper GDP contractions than that associated with political motives. What triggers social unrest? The IMF in its exercise found that past turmoil, both domestically and in neighboring countries, is by far the most important variable in predicting future strife. Past turmoil is about 10 times as informative as the most revealing social or economic factors. The note cites work by IMF economists who have used machine learning techniques to assess the ability of more than 340 economic and social indicators to predict unrest. Also, mass protests are more likely to have an impact than smaller ones, obviously, and protests often grow when people think others will join in. The note points out that this has much in common with a bank run, where people join the queue to withdraw their deposits because they see other people in line ahead of them. The note also points out that in countries with more open and democratic institutions, unrest has less of an impact on stock market returns. But in countries with more authoritarian regimes, the effect is large and negative. On average, stock market returns fall 2% within 3 days and about 4% in the following month. Also, a stronger rule of law dampens the adverse effect of unrest on GDP. Why look at stock market returns at all? The stock market is a barometer that offers an immediate view into what can be expected. While not always correlated, the stock market is a lead indicator, at least in the medium term, of corporate performance, which in turn points to potential GDP growth. That brings us to the nugget of information that we share with you in each episode. Did you know that the University of Alabama in Birmingham cites the farmer protest of 2020-21 in India as possibly the single largest protest ever in global history? Though movements in other countries have been huge, taken as a single continuous event, the scale and the duration for which the farmer protests lasted in India and the context of the pandemic likely made it more impactful. And here's a quiz question for this week. How long did the farmer protests in India last? And here's the answer to last week's question. How many ships are currently supposed to be part of the shadow fleet that help transport Russian oil? And the answer is about 600. That's all we have for you folks in this episode. If you enjoyed what you saw, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until we meet again, have a lovely time ahead.